Okay, I'm live on, where am I live? YouTube and Facebook. There we go. Okay, trying to get my cameras lined up. Oh, that's better. Okay. Okay, just waiting for people to turn up. I'm just between sessions, so I've got some time. I rescheduled someone, so I've got this free block of time, which is good. Okay, I'm not usually on at this time. Actually, I'm never on at this time. Feels weird. Anyway. Okay, welcome. I'm just waiting for people to turn up before I get going here. Okay. So welcome. I'm just sitting here waiting for people to turn up. I'm just doing a couple notes here while I'm get some work done here. Okay. Okay. Glad you're on now as I'm from the UK. Hi, UK. I lived in Australia for about 20 years, so I'm used to that time difference because my family was back here in Canada, so it was really well, I always did it this way. It was 18 hours ahead, but I always said, well, it's 6 hours from now, but yesterday. That's how I always, Australia. Hi, Shell. Yeah, I raised my kids in Australia. My kids were born, my son was born in Sydney. My daughter was born in Brisbane. We were there for about 20 years. Okay, so let's get going with the live now. By the way, thanks so much for your support. I hit 200,000 on Facebook last week. So that was a big, I've been on here since I think December. So just really, so about 6 months, I had 200,000. Thank you. That's overwhelming. Halifax. Hi, Halifax. UK. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, by the way. I'm going to tell you a funny story. We're kind of waiting for people to turn in. I don't have no sense of direction anymore because I've been through menopause. When I hit about in my 40s, I hit perimenopause, and then my sense of direction flew right out the window. I used to know where I was all the time. Now I never know where I am. Well, I know I'm in my apartment, but you know what I mean. Hi, Texas. Anyway, so yesterday I was on my bike and I was going far away in Vancouver. It's like a 45-minute bike ride. So, but I was trying to look at the map, Google Maps, and it was leading. But when you just stop on a bike and you look at Google Maps, you don't know which direction it's going in. And the street corners, I just didn't know where I was. Anyway, it was a 45-minute bike ride. And at one point, I kept looking at my phone. And then it said, you're 20 minutes away. And I'm all excited. Oh, you're 5 minutes away. And then I looked again and I was 20 minutes away. I had backtracked. I did that like 2 or 3 times. I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, I am directionally impaired. So that was struck me as funny. I actually did a video on that on I have a personal TikTok. I don't go on there very often, but I like to tell these funny stories because I figure that's for my grandchildren one day. Menopause. Yeah, I'm done with all that stuff. Menopause. Do you have any experience with autism? Yeah, but I only discuss that in coaching because that's more of a specialty. Okay, we got enough people. Let's get going now. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on the link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, of which I have 4. One is on potty training, one's on bedtime battles, one's on tantrums, and one is on toddlers who hit. I also have my big boot camp course. If you have a child 3 to 12 years old, if you want to learn how to be a leader in 5 weeks, that's the boot camp course. It's all focused on you, not your kids. Parents always want to stop their kids from the bad behavior, but I always say, no, you set yourself up as a leader and then the bad behavior takes care of itself. So it's all about you. Yeah. And then what else? Oh yeah, coaching. I have a big wait list right now. I don't answer the messages about coaching unless I've got an opening. So if you're waiting to hear from me, I'm hoping to get to a couple today. I just finished up with a couple of clients today. So I do have a couple openings. So I will look at that today. I'm just looking at the wait list. Oops. Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, geez. Yeah. I will get to you today, hopefully, or I'll look through them all today anyway. Okay. So let's get going with your parenting questions. I answer as many as I can. I'm on YouTube the whole time I'm doing my lives. I've got like 11,000 followers on YouTube now. It's a bit of a beast. YouTube is a search engine. It's not social media. Like I've got 200,000 on Facebook, 400 on Instagram, and 600,000 on TikTok. But YouTube, it's a beast. But 11,000, that's a big deal on YouTube. It's hard to, used to be easier evidently, but now it's hard to do. Okay, how do I build confidence in my 15-year-old? Yeah, I get asked this a lot. And basically, okay, it's a bit of a long answer here. How long should I make it? Okay, when you're a kid or a teenager, your school is your world. Okay, they're in a very small school, a very small world. So they're kind of restricted. And I suggest that you get them out, try and encourage them to join things outside of their school so they've got more people to be around, and encourage them to do things that they enjoy, not necessarily things they're good at. Being good at something doesn't always increase your confidence. Having fun is a better confidence booster than being good at something. Does that make any sense? But yeah, try and get them out as much as possible. But it's very hard to make a lot of good friends in school if you don't happen to have a lot of kids that you connect with in school. It's just a really small pool to pull from. Once you're an adult, you've got the whole world to pull from, your whole city. But when you're in school, it's a very small world that they live in. So even though they might be a great kid and super popular in college or just out working, doesn't mean they're going to be popular and have confidence in high school. It's just part of it. Growing up is hard work. How do you deal with swearing teenagers? You don't discipline a teenager till you've started to work on your relationship with your teenager. All teenagers are coaching right now. I don't have any courses on teenagers. Yeah, you got to work on your relationship. I'm going to read out my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. My tongue always gets tangled up in that every time I say that. Okay, my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with, or they will shut you out. Okay, if they want your advice, they'll ask for it. And by the way, they already know it. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything with a teenager. It goes something like this. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? Back and forth. You give respect to get it. Reciprocity, right? That's what you're building with a teenager. And number 3, with teenagers, don't sweat the small stuff. If they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, just say, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did when I was your age? Or do you want to hear what I did yesterday? So yeah, and then laugh it off. It's okay to make mistakes. Don't shame your children. There should be no shame in any of this. If you're shaming your children, you're doing it wrong. You're a bully. You're not a leader. Leaders don't shame children. They just teach them that, hey, you did something wrong. There's got to be a consequence. Like if I speed, I'll probably get a ticket. Like, they got to learn to own their mistakes. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in making mistakes. It's just a shame for not owning them. Okay. So, and they'll catch on. How do you deal with a 2-year-old who has tantrums, kicks, and screams? Yeah, check out my tantrum course. It's one of my mini courses, but basically you just ignore a tantrum. But if they get physical, you physically restrain them. You still don't look at them or talk to them. You just restrain them. You stop them from hurting themselves, someone else, or damaging property. Only when they're little, though. When they get big, you don't do that with teenagers. Okay, but I do have a mini toddler course on tantrums if you're interested. It goes into detail about that. It was funny. Someone bought a course. Probably shouldn't say this, but I have no filtering system. Someone bought a course on, I can't remember which course it was. And they said, well, you didn't even cover this or that or this. They only looked at the introduction section and realized there were like 8 other sections. They laughed. Anyway, it struck me as funny. That's like something I would do. I would do that. They just look at the introduction, didn't realize there was a whole bunch of stuff after that. Yeah, I can see me doing that. Okay. How do you deal with teenage tantrums? You don't You don't really deal with them. I don't quite know what you mean. Are they getting physical? If they get physical, if they're hurting themselves or hurting someone else, you can try and intervene. If they're damaging property, you don't do anything. They have tantrums as a teenager. There's many different reasons why they do. But you can't focus on the tantrum. You have to focus on yourself. So set yourself up as a leader with a teenager. That means you give respect to get it. You get really good at listening, and they just don't tend to have tantrums. My son he had a temper because he had tantrums when he was little. That is the sign of a temper, right? So when he was a teenager, he said to me once, and I say this all the time. He doesn't watch me on here, thank God. But anyway, he probably wouldn't care anyway. He's 34 now. But anyway, he was a teenager, and he said to me, he wanted to rebel, right? And he said to me, I could never rebel because you're too reasonable and easy to talk to. I didn't know whether to celebrate or apologize. I think in front of him, I apologized, then I went and celebrated. But yeah, when you're a leader, they don't tend to tantrum, or you know what I mean? It calms them down because they have a safe place to land. They'll tell you everything. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. Teenagers are my favorite age. I started my business doing teen crisis work, and yeah, they're my favorite age. I've been hired by a lot of teachers, principals, and child psychologists, but I've never been hired by a youth worker. Youth workers deal with difficult teenagers. If you can work with difficult teenagers, you don't need my help. They're the PhD and all this stuff. Yeah, teenagers they're a different level because they're so smart, right? Yeah. My teen is a really good kid, and he will help me when I ask him to do things, but he will complain and ask why we have to do it. Should I ignore the complaint? Oh, yeah, just ignore it. Just change the subject. Why do we have to do this? Oh, I don't know. Life's weird, isn't it? Yeah, I would just sort of go like that. Okay, this is from Shell. Oh, right in Australia. Okay, this is Shell on YouTube. Writes, I have done your toddler biting hitting course, and we're going great at home, but we are having issues at daycare. They are unable to implement a negative consequence for our daughter, such as removing a toy. Yeah, they can't do the same thing that you can do at home. And she's only 2. Generally, over a period of time, when they get control of themselves at home, it will transfer over to school. It's a slow burn. Toddlers don't learn quickly. But yeah, once you've sorted it out at home, then it will sort of take care of itself at school. That's the idea behind it. And if the school can't deal with it right now, like you can never ask a school or a daycare or anything to do what you're doing at home. But you could maybe tell them what you're doing and see if that helps. See if they might go, oh, that sounds great. We can do that. But yeah, you can tell them what you're doing and say, look, we don't expect you to do this, but we thought we'd tell you what's been working at home. Approach it that way. Teens seem to have split personality, nice and sweet to grumpy and rude. Yeah, they're psychotic. It is hormones. And also they're learning. Imagine all the pressure on their brain, all the stuff that they have to learn, and so much is expected of them. So yeah, I have a real soft spot for teenagers. They're my favorite age because there's so much pressure on them. And the hormones, I think really, I have a whole bunch of jokes around it, but they're not necessarily appropriate here. But yeah, I think hormones have a lot to do with it, to be honest. And they're separating from you, because in order to grow and become independent, they have to start separating and almost resenting the fact that they need you still. It's part of it. You have to understand and respect that. So yeah, they can kind of resent you because they still do need you, but they don't want to. They're pulling away from you. So that's part of it too. Okay. Hello. Hello. I'm a mom of 2 5-year-old, 2 5 and under girls. And I am very happy to find your page, and I've already started to do what you say and seen so many improvements in my 5-year-old. Thank you so much. Excellent. I always say that I just tell you what to do. You're the ones who do the work. So yeah, pat yourself on the back for that. Good for you. This stuff just works. It just does. I've been doing this for so many years, and the clients who just sort of remove all emotion when they're disciplining and just follow through with what I say, they get great results. It's the ones who struggle, and I understand this. We've all got stuff we struggle with, right? So I understand it. But it's the one who let their own emotions get in the way when they're disciplining, and they get pulled into negotiating and explaining themselves, and the kids just pick up on that energy. Like, that's not leadership. Once I've said what's going to happen, it happens. I don't explain it because they already understand. You've already shown them the board, and right? By the way, that's the behavior board I keep talking about. It's completely free in the link above if you're interested. If you want to go next level, that would be the mini toddler courses or the big boot camp course. What time is it? Okay. Oh, 1-year-old, do you punish? Not really. No. Okay, I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. And this is all about, a lot of it is about environment management. So it can apply to babies too. Number 1 is child-proof your home, so you never have to say no. A lot of parents refuse to do that because they want their children to just learn. But you know how many friends I've had who've said, oh, I've caught them brushing their teeth with the toilet brush again. Oh my God, in a million years I wouldn't allow that. I just want them to learn. That's not important to me. My kids, our whole house was completely childproof. There was basically nothing below the waist except kids' toys. And they were precocious. When we went out, they didn't tend to get into things because they weren't used to doing it at home. So yeah, it didn't wreck that. Anyway, so that's number 1 with toddlers, childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. If you're rotating their toys away around once a week, like they only have 5 toys out, the rest you're just rotating, they don't tend to get bored as easily. They're more focused too. Then they don't have all that overstimulation of 100 toys around them. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler. This is under the age of 3. So a toddler to me is about 16 to 35 months. 15 months and under is sort of more of a baby. So, and I'll get into that in a second, how you discipline a baby. You don't really, but I'll explain. Okay, So when you enter their world to connect with them. When you want to connect with a toddler, you enter their world. Watch how they play and join in. They'll just they just look at you differently. You play the way they play, and then you can sort of redirect once you're in there. But enter their world. You don't go to the nail salon with a 2-year-old. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them, okay? So number 4 is kind of similar. When you want to discipline a toddler, you do so in their world. They're not about words, they're about actions. These mini therapy sessions that are so trendy these days, discussing all the big feelings and big emotions, they're just crap. It's absolute crap. A 2-year-old doesn't care about all that stuff. And they'll look at you, I'm sorry, yes, I do, my big feelings, I do get angry. No, they're not listening. They're just parroting back what you say. It doesn't teach them anything. So you use consistent corrective actions, and they learn through repetition. You got to do it like 50 times before they actually learn, because they're learning through repetition, not through really thinking it through. They don't really have that frontal lobe where they can stop and think before they act till they're about 3. That's why the behavior board starts at 3. So does the boot camp course. Okay, number 5, how to parent toddlers, is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. They're cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and for that first year, you're a potato laying in a mattress. Speaking of potatoes, I saw a little bulldog puppy yesterday, and it looked like a little potato. It's the cutest little thing. Anyway, okay, so that's it. Now, how do you discipline a baby? So 15 months and under, you just use diversion. You might say no, but you never want to say no to the point where they cry. So, but you can take something away, and if they cry because of that, then you use diversion. But you never use excited diversion, you use indirect diversion. What I mean by that is you don't go, here, look at this. You just sit and read their favorite book to them, like out loud to yourself, and they'll hopefully come and crawl in your lap. Or you just sit in a corner and play with their toys, and they should join in. So you're not directly trying to divert them, you're just giving them another option. No wonder why my voice gives out. I talk a lot. Because if I'm not talking, it's silent. So I always feel like you shouldn't have to sit there and just watch me not say anything. Got to give you your value here. If you turn up, I got to give you value. How do you deal with a 2-year-old that hates getting their diaper changed? Yeah, most kids will go through that. They'll start doing the crocodile, I call it, when they spin on the change table. My kids learned pretty early on with me that it's going to happen no matter what. So what I did was if their head was up here, I'd put my arm across their chest, and I would change them very fast. Might have been messy, but it was done very quickly. Like I didn't ever say, here, do you want a toy? I mean, they could lay down with the toy, but once they were on that change table, the change happened fast. So they just eventually learned that mom's going to win every time. Always make sure you win with stuff like that. If you lose and you say, okay, how about if we go and look for another toy? They just won. So yeah, my kids learned, hey, it's just going to happen. If mom says something's going to happen, it's going to happen. So they just stopped fighting me. They were more likely to continue fighting their dad because he was the pleaser, I was the leader. It's usually the way it goes. There's usually a stronger leader than the other one. And but yeah, he would do the negotiations. So of course, I would just get a cup of tea and stand in the doorway and watch and laugh. It was entertaining. So I'm scrolling ahead to make sure you're still here while I answer your question because people come and go. Okay. How do you get a teen to go to bed at a reasonable time? Take their phone and charge it in your bedroom. That's one way. But I don't know your situation. That might not work in your home. Like, are they 18? Like you can't do that with an 18-year-old. But yeah, unless you're paying for it, maybe if you're paying for the phone. Anyway, yeah, teenage stuff is usually coaching. I don't have a lot of general advice with teenagers because so much is based on your relationship with your teenager and how old they are. There's a lot of difference between a 13 and an 18-year-old. Okay. Do you have no, I don't have a course on this. I'm going to read this out. It's from Sydney Mason. Do you have a course about toddlers who are having trouble accepting the younger siblings? I would never have a course on that because it's just a transition. It's just going to take time. They get used to it. There's nothing you can do to help it. Or I've never heard of anything. You can get them their own doll and they can help out and do all that. But yeah, I've never come across anything that really helps. It just takes time. Okay, that's about it. It's a big adjustment. Imagine if your spouse came in with a new spouse. How would you adjust to that? Like, it's a big someone coming and taking your place. That's how they feel. But would you eventually get used to that? No, that's inappropriate. Having siblings is different, right? Probably a bad analogy, but I'm horrible at analogies. I'm always messing them up. That was probably a bad one. Yeah, I keep using it. I don't know why. How do you stop a 2-year-old copying bad behavior? Well, you don't stop it. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that. You don't really stop that. You just, who are they copying? And yeah, I need more specifics. I need to know exactly what they're doing, because it's different answers for different actions and what they're doing. Oh, actually, I got to get going. I got to move over to Instagram because I got a client coming up soon. I got to go over to Instagram now, and I'm on YouTube the whole time. So if you want to join me over on Instagram, it's the same Bratbusters Parenting. If not, check out the link above. You can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. And there's a big wait list for coaching. I won't get back to you unless I have an opening. Okay, so that's why. If you're not hearing from me, that's why. Okay, thanks so much for joining me, and I'm heading over to Instagram now. Try not to talk between transfers because I'm trying to save my voice. Hello, everyone turns up all in one clump on Instagram. It's the only one that does that. Yeah. Sure curious why that happens. Anyway, okay, welcome to the live. My name is Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. And if you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. If you look in the link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler course, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. If I don't get back to you regarding coaching, it's just because I don't have any openings, okay? So yeah, and you're all in a queue. And I do like to mix up the ages. So someone was complaining and they said, you took my sister, but you didn't take me. That's because you had different ages, right? So I do like to mix it up. Otherwise, I don't just want to have all teenagers or all toddlers in my roster of clients. Okay. Tips for a 2.5-year-old that is regressing in potty training. So they were already trained. I have a potty training course. I don't know if you need that if you've already potty trained, but I have a potty training course if you're interested. It's one of my mini courses. But if they're regressing, I don't know why. Like, how are they regressing? Is it just the poop or is it both? And, you know, I don't know. I don't know the situation. There's a lot of variables with potty training. Are they using a potty? Are they using the big toilet? Did they have night diapers? Do they have pull-ups during the day sometimes? You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff around that. Anyway, you might want to check out the potty training course because it's a really good sort. Like, it's got some other information in there too about all that stuff and why a lot of them won't poop in the toilet, but they'll pee in the toilet. Okay, Baby Bumpy says, I've learned so much from you. Thank you. You're very welcome. Cute name, Baby Bumpy. This woman changed my life. Oh, how sweet. Thank you for all you do. I love my job. I'm very lucky. I love my job. And it's funny, my daughter works with me, and one of my clients said, well, she does all the marketing and social media and videos and all that stuff. And someone said, well, what if you don't like what she does? And I said, well, I don't know what she does. There's no crossover in our jobs at all. She's totally in charge of all that stuff. She just tells me what to do. Like I said to her the other day, can I do a course on such and such? She goes, no, what we're doing next is she plans out everything. So it was quite funny. I don't have a clue. I don't know what she does. I don't have a clue. We're a very good partnership. Okay. How to discipline a toddler who doesn't care about toys. It's about consistent corrective action. You're not always just taking toys away. Sometimes you're removing them from the fun or the fun from them. So you can remove them from the fun, or you can, there's a million different things you can do. But yeah, basically you remove fun from them or them from the fun just for a period of time if they're doing something naughty. But also I'm going to read this out, my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. It might help because a lot of it is about managing your household too, to make your life easier. This is number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. And I have videos on that toy rotation system. You can look that up. Number 3 is you enter their world to connect with them. You don't go to the nail salon with them. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They'll just look at you differently when you enter their world. Number 4 is when you want to discipline a toddler, it's kind of similar. You do so in their world. They're not about words. You know, all these mini therapy sessions, they're so trendy right now, discussing all these big feelings and big emotions. It's absolute garbage. That's not for them. That's for you. They're about actions. So you use consistent corrective actions because they learn over repetition. Okay, it takes a lot of time with a toddler. But yeah, and by the way, they remember the time that you didn't do it. You got to be consistent. That's why I say consistent corrective actions. Number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years. In the first year, you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like, they're just forming. I always call them crazy, but it's just that they haven't developed sanity yet. Okay, do you recommend your techniques to a preschool teacher? Absolutely not, because I don't know anything about that. I only teach parenting, which is home-based. A huge portion of my clients are teachers, principals, and child psychologists. And they actually say that they do use a lot of my methods, but they'd have to decide which ones would work. Like, I'll tell you, because not everything crosses over. Parenting's like nothing else. It's personal. You live with these people. They're an extension of you. It's completely different from every other relationship. And they're for life, right? You can divorce your partner, but you never divorce your kids, right? So yeah, it's completely different. One thing I was going to mention that does not cross over well, but it's something that works beautifully in classrooms, but it's a total disaster at home. It's a reward chart for good behavior. In a classroom, it's not personal. There's 30 kids on there. They don't take it personally. And it's not a personal relationship anyway. So it's a reward chart for good behavior. If you were to do that at home with your own kids, you know what you're saying to them? You're saying you're normally rotten, but if you should happen to be good, you'll get a reward. You see the message you're sending? Yeah, I don't like that. Okay. So I'm scrolling ahead because I just want to make sure people are here. People come and go. Like, I'll get like 2,000 or 3,000 people in a live, but they're not all on at the same time. They come and go. So how to help a 2.5-year-old bond with a 4-month-old baby sister? You don't. It just happens organically. You can't force someone to bond. It just doesn't work that way. It'll just happen organically. Don't force it. They're just little, okay? Is having tantrums something that should go on the behavior board? Absolutely not. A tantrum is attitude-based, and it's completely different. It's a loss of emotional control. They can't control it. So you see what I mean? So yeah, they past the age of 3 to 3.5, they should stop having tantrums when you're a leader. But before that, they're going to keep having them. But they can diminish in frequency, duration, and intensity when you get good at ignoring tantrums. Check out my toddler tantrum course. I also cover tantrums in the Big Boot Camp course for 3 and over. But check out if it's a toddler, check out the mini toddler course for tantrums. It goes into detail about how you actually effectively ignore a tantrum. You don't just ignore it. There's a way of doing it. 5-year-old is potty trained, but always wet at night. How do I help her stay dry? That's a tricky one, because she could just be a bedwetter. Like, she just doesn't have that bladder control yet. That's quite common, actually. So maybe put pull-ups in. If she's completely potty trained, I would probably use pull-ups, because you don't want her to be embarrassed by wetting the bed. So yeah, just say, well, some people need these into the teen years, and that's true. Some teenagers are still bedwetting. I've even heard of adults sometimes. It's a physiological thing. No, is that the right word? It's physical. Like, they literally, their bladder just isn't as strong. The muscle I don't know. You're supposed to do that start-stop exercise. But yeah, I wouldn't want a 5-year-old to be embarrassed. So I'd probably put pull-ups on them. Also, don't have them drink anything an hour and a half before bed. You might even get them up at midnight, half asleep, and put them on the toilet then. Put their hand in warm water so they'll pee. So yeah, I've known people who do that. They actually wake their kids up when they go to bed at 11 or 12 or whatever, and put them on the toilet so they'll pee, and then they have a dry night. Someone asked, what's the best nighttime routine for newborns and toddlers? Well, they're completely different. Newborns, yeah, I just kind of meet their needs and meet their wants when they're newborns, and then try and get them into a sleep schedule. Then you do the sleep training. Oh, it's a common name for that. So I think both my kids, I did that at about 8 or 10 months, whereas I just let them cry it out in bed, and then I cried outside their bedroom door. But I'd go in every few minutes. You're all right, pat them on the back, and then go out and cry in the hallway. But then toddlers, then I have from 2 to 8 years old. You can check out my bedtime battles course. It's one of my mini courses. And that teaches you how to get them in bed is part 1, and then how to keep them there. That's the hard part. It's usually one night of hell. Sometimes 2 or 3, but it gets easier. But yeah, it's ugly. It's ugly. But it's one of my favorite things to talk about with clients, because it works. But it's a short-term pain for long-term gain one. One of the longest ones that's hardest to fix is mealtime battles. Because yeah, we have 3 meals a day or whatever, and it takes longer. Bedtime is very cut and dry how it's done. Mealtime battles are trickier. It works, but it takes longer. Where's the boot camp course? Everything I have is in the link above. It's just one link. Also, be careful if you're ever going to be scrolling, like Googling my name or anything, because a whole bunch of scammers are out there. You know, I've got like over 1 million followers now, and this just happens. People scam people out of money pretending to be me. They're using my videos, my name, all my content, and they're trying to scam. But that link above, that is me, so you can't go wrong with that. Like, I'm just going to Google here, see what comes up. Lisa. Yeah, I see stuff that isn't me. So yeah, just be careful. The link there is me. Nothing I can do about that. I'd have to fly over to Nigeria and hunt them all down. As soon as one of those scam accounts is closed down, they open up another one. So it's just one of those things. How to deal with extreme anger in an 8-year-old plays. Well, I don't know what they're angry about, but basically when you're a leader, it calms them down. It tends to regulate. They feel safe. They feel taken care of. It just calms them down. Also, because you're so fair and reasonable that there's no injustices. It's usually extreme anger comes from a feeling of injustices, not all the time, but often, where they feel like things aren't fair. Once you're a leader, they feel like everything's fair because you are fair. Okay, you got to get on top of this stuff. You want to make them understand that, hey, look, you make a good choice, your life is good. You make a bad choice, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of that because I'm your parent and that's my job. Okay, so you're just there to monitor things and be organized. You got to be organized though. Getting respect is hard work. Maintaining it's a piece of cake, but getting it is hard work. It's worth it though. So my stomach's growling. Forgot to have lunch. I didn't forget. I just didn't have time. Okay. How to differentiate between tantrum, meltdown, and regular cry. Does it really matter? Like if you're not meeting their needs. Okay. A tantrum is, you meet their needs and you manage their wants. A tantrum is usually over a want. If they're upset because you're not meeting their needs, they're overtired, they're sick, or they're hungry, then you address that. You don't ignore that. So you meet their needs and manage their wants. If they're having and I don't really know how to differentiate. There's all these people out there who have, this is what a tantrum is. I call them tantrum scenes, meltdowns, or fits. They're all kind of the same. It's when they lose their nut because they didn't get their own way. That to me is just a tantrum. You kind of deal with them all the same way anyway. Okay, 3-year-old extremely willful and wants to do everything herself, even dangerous things. If she cannot, a tantrum will happen. Dozens of tantrums a day help. I don't know what's going on there. I have no idea because they should not be having, at 3 years old, they shouldn't be having dozens of tantrums every day. So work on your leadership skills. Check out my boot camp course. That might be a good fit for you. If you're really in the red zone, like it's that bad, she's just basically screaming all day long, you might want to look into coaching. I do have a wait list. Unfortunately, I'm busy, but I won't answer any coaching messages until I've got openings. So if you don't hear from me, it's just because I don't have any openings, but you're in a queue. But yeah, it should be having dozens of tantrums every day. Sorry, my stomach's growling. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay. How do I get my 7-year-old to listen to me? I know he hears me when I ask him to do something and even get down on his level with eye contact. What does that have to do with it? But he purposely doesn't listen until I lose it. Yeah, getting down eye level means nothing to them. Might mean something to you. But anyway, check out the behavior board and put down rules and consequences on there. We all learn through consequences. We pay our taxes because we don't want to go to jail. We don't speed every time we want to because we might get a ticket, right? So everything, we run our lives by consequences. So teach this to your children. So yeah, check out the behavior board. If you want to go next level, that's the boot camp course. It's all in the link above. There's one link and it's got everything in it. 16-year-old stealing from everyone. That's coaching. You'd have to hire me for that. I have to look into it. I do with teenage stuff. If you're stealing, put that down in the description. If you want to work with me, check it out first though. And then, if you want to hire me for coaching, then you fill out the intake form and let me know that teenager's stealing. I'd probably prioritize that because you've only got a couple more years with this kid and you want to sort that out now, right? Sort of in the crisis department. Okay. Night terror advice. Yeah, some kids have night terrors. Night terrors, from my understanding, I've asked doctors about this. It's when they wake up having a nightmare and they don't realize they're awake. They're still living it. What I mean is the nightmare keeps going even though they're awake. So they just don't snap out of it, basically. So what I've recommended to some parents that helps is using sound machines or galaxy lights or something where they know they're awake, or you can even give them a flashlight so they can turn that on in the room and they know they're awake. But yeah, it's because they don't wake up from a nightmare. They're still kind of living it. Some kids, they either have them or they don't, evidently. It's something that you're just sort of born to have. But yeah, just have some tools like the sound machine. So basically when they hear that sound machine, the idea is that they'll realize they're awake. They're not living in the nightmare, but I don't know. It's hit and miss with that, by the way. And they usually grow out of it. 5-year-old, very smart, but constantly misbehaving at school. Intelligence has nothing to do with behavior. They're completely separate things. So if they're misbehaving at school, it means they must be misbehaving at home, or you're catering to them and giving them everything they want at home, right? The school doesn't do that. So it's one of the two. Anyway, check out the boot camp course. That might be a good fit for you. So I'm just scrolling ahead to make sure you're here while oh goodness, it's a lot of questions. Okay, what time is it? Oh, I got to get going because I've got a client coming up soon, and I'm going to go over to TikTok now. If you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. If not, check out the link above. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. I'm full up with coaching. Well, that's not true. I just finished with 2 clients today, but I'm going to go through these intake forms for coaching. If I don't get back to you about coaching, it just means I haven't got room. So I'm busy. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Happy parenting, and I'm heading over to TikTok. Bye now. Okay. Oh, sorry, just reading stuff. Just waiting for people to turn up. So I've got people out in my hallway. I live in an apartment, and I've got a soundproof thing underneath the door, but I always think, I wonder if they can hear everything I say. Evidently, they can hear me because I talk loud. They can hear me, but they don't know what I'm saying. Okay. Hi, can I hire you for kids 1.5 to 3 from Sweden? It depends on what you're going through. Like, you might not need me for that. You might just need the behavior board or the boot camp course. But with toddlers, I have mini toddler courses. So check out all my courses first. I always try and push people into the courses first, just because I'm full up with coaching usually. But yeah. Does your program work for fostering children, trauma children? That would be more coaching usually. But you're still, the course is all based on your leadership, and it tends to calm children down. And it also, I talk about how you listen effectively, but I don't go into trauma, PTSD, abuse, all that kind of stuff in the course. That's specialty stuff. I deal with that in coaching. But it's still a really good resource to have too. That course is just sitting there. It's evergreen. You can look at it whenever you want. I always say it doesn't expire, I guess, unless I do. I don't know. Unless my daughter keeps it going long after I'm gone. I don't know. But yeah, it could help because it's all about calming you down and learning how to deal with stuff. I followed you since I got 3-year-olds, so I tried it all. Let's hope it's working. Also, sometimes people will say, well, I did that I did that, and nothing's working. And I'll say, I said, you got to be doing something. You got to be sabotaging it somehow because this stuff just works. So sometimes people will hire me, or they'll buy a course or something, then they'll hire me afterwards. And there's just something they're doing. They're either not playing with their kids enough, or they might be yelling too much, or you know what I mean? Like there's something that you're doing that's sabotaging the success that you could be having with, especially that boot camp course, because it's 5 weeks. It's pretty, inclusive. It goes through a whole bunch of stuff. So if that's not working, it's often something you're doing. And not everyone can figure it out. Sometimes it takes me a minute to figure it out too. But most of what I teach is about bonding with and connecting with children. The discipline is a tiny part of it. So if you're not connecting with your kids and you're just disciplining them, none of this is going to work. You got to bond with them, connect with them, have fun with them, play with them. And then this discipline gets easier. Okay, you definitely yell too much. Yeah, yelling is, most parents do yell. It's the first thing I usually put on the behavior board. I had a couple parents today. No, we don't really yell. I'm like, oh, great. It makes my job so much harder because I usually put their rule is no yelling. But yeah, when parents don't yell, throws me off. Okay. What term comes after toddler? My kid is 3. I call that preschool. So I call baby is 0 to 15 months, toddler 16 to 35 months. Preschooler is 3 and 4 years old. 5 to 8 is school age. 9 to 12 is preteen or tween. And 13 and up is teenager. That's just what I call them. I think there's probably a whole bunch of other ways out there. My 2-year-old has tantrums every time the dog comes near or walks by. Any tips? I don't know what you mean. Your dog walks by? Do they want attention? I don't have context around that. Is it your dog? Are they afraid? Or do they want the dog to come near them and the dog won't because they're kind of crazy? So I don't know. How do you deal with preschooler jealous over a baby? You don't really deal with that. You don't really deal with it. It just takes time. Just make sure that you play with that older one a little bit, like a lot too, and make sure they get attention. But yeah, there's not much you can do. It just takes time. They have to get used to that baby coming in and stealing mommy and daddy away from them. It just takes time. It's a slow burn. You can't fast track that, or I've never heard of it being done. Okay, now what to do if a child hits or scratches other children in a kindergarten without a reason? Well, I don't know about how old are they? Like kindergarten would be 4 or 5 years old. Other children without a reason. Well, if they're in kindergarten, put on the behavior board, no hurting other people, and then have the teacher tell you so that when you pick the kid up afterwards, you say, okay, we're going to go to the behavior board when we get home, and there's a consequence. So you can deal with that. You can't do that with a toddler, but you can do that with 3 and over. They can stop and think before they act, and they can also understand deferred punishment. So and with toddlers, it has to be right in the moment, like right then. But yeah, with that, and in kindergarten, you can have the teacher report to you, and then when you go home, then have a consequence. Do you have courses we can join? Yeah, check out the link above. All my courses are there. I have 4 mini courses for toddlers. There's one on tantrums, potty training, bedtime, and biting. And those are just for toddlers, although the bedtime one goes up to 8 years old, bedtime battles. Or you can look into my big course, my boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old. That one's 5 weeks long. That's a bigger course. It's all focused on you. All this is, I teach leadership. You lead, they will follow. Leadership is that you want to be leading and they will be following. Too many parents are reacting to their kids' bad behavior. It's not, you don't want to be reacting to them. You want them to react to you. They react to the leader. You're like a mentor. They look up to you. They like you. They'll tell you everything. When you're a good leader, you're just like a mentor. You ever had a teacher or a coach that you really looked up to? Would you ever be rude to that person? Probably not. That's what this leadership's all about. When should you start pre-K? I don't know. It's different in every state, in every province, in every country. It's all different. There is no set age. My kids, where we came from in Queensland, Australia, Brisbane, they started kindy at 3, preschool at 4, grade 1 at 5. And that's how it was done there. But it's different, wherever you live. Okay, how can I help my 3-year-old deal with frustration? She goes into meltdown when things go wrong. You just completely ignore that stuff. You can't regulate someone else's emotions. So check out the tantrum course. That might be a good fit, or the boot camp course. Yeah, you don't deal with tantrums. Let them deal with it. They have to learn how to deal with it. Yeah, check out the tantrum course or the boot camp course. You say ignore tantrums. What if you need to catch the bus? Well, you pick them up, but you still ignore them. You don't talk to them or look at them. You just pick them up and kicking and screaming, facing away from you, your hand on the back of their head usually, so they can't headbutt. And then you just, you just got to do what you got to do sometimes. Our dog, every time he goes by, she tantrums, screaming, go away. I would kind of ignore that. Yeah. I would probably go over to the dog. That's okay. I'd ignore her, but I'd go over to the dog. That's okay. And then give the dog some attention. But I wouldn't look at her or talk to her. I think she's doing it for attention. That would be my guess. There's no other reason a 2-year-old would do that, just for attention. Yeah. So don't give it to her. What do you do as an alternative to timeout? Well, with toddlers, it's consistent corrective actions. With 3 years old and over, it is the behavior board. So yeah, I hate timeout. I can't stand it. Yeah, it doesn't teach them anything other than sitting in a corner feeling like crap about themselves. It's a shaming technique, and I hate shame. You should never shame a child for being naughty. You just teach them, hey, you make a bad choice, here's a consequence. The behavior board's completely free. It's in the link above. You can check it out. It's got rules and consequences. You're on it too. The parents have to be on it. I teach leadership. You're accountable. You're leading by example. They're watching you. They're not listening to you. They're watching you. So if you make a mistake, then you have a consequence, right? Why? Okay, what to do with a 2.5-year-old keeps dumping our dog food on the floor? No play. Okay, I don't know why they'd have access to that. I'm big on childproofing. Yeah. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, you enter their world. You don't connect at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. And number 4 is stop with the mini therapy sessions when you're disciplining a toddler. They're not about words. They're about actions. I know these mini therapy sessions are so trendy right now. They were invented to make the mom feel good about herself. Discussing all the big feelings and big emotions is just garbage. Toddlers are all about actions. You use consistent corrective actions to correct a toddler's bad behavior. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed in there. Yeah, I always call them crazy, but it's just that they haven't developed sanity yet. Okay. I have to go. I've got an appointment. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. If you want to check out the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. Happy parenting. Bye now.